All right, glad to have you back. You're still watching Business Nigeria. And now I'll be talking to Professor Ken Ife, who's a development economist, and also joining us is Mr. Tiliwa Adebajo, who's the CEO of CFG Advisory, both speaking to me around the resolutions reached after the two-day Monetary Policy Committee meeting. Mr. Adebajo, let me start with you. Were you expecting this, talking about the retention of rates from the after the outcome of the two-day meeting for the month of May?
Well, first of all, I'm in Abeokuta at the moment. I'm the chairman of the local organizing committee for the National Sports Festival. Yeah. So I haven't really paid too much attention to the MPC until this morning when I was reading the results. So the games are going on here. It's going on very well, and I'm going in between venues. And it's been quite interesting with our governor here, Prince Dr. Dapo Abiodun, who has put up a spectacular event for us here and all states of all the participating. But having said that, I think my own comment rising, we have some within the economic quality, but since we have a lot of uncertainty surrounding the inflationary numbers, I think it's important that at this stage rates are held. So for us, no surprise in that decision at this time in the economy.
Prof, let me also ask you, Professor Ken Ife, what you make of this decision of the Apex Bank. Was it what you were thinking, considering what we saw, a bit of decline in inflation and all of that? Some say we shouldn't because of the basket of the commodities that were weighed in this field. What do you make of that outcome in your thoughts, Prof?
From the moment President Trump entered that office, I wasn't expecting central bank to tinker with the rates because the risks are so high. We've been slammed 14%. We don't even know what that means because it's yet to arrive. Simply because we have an import-dependent economy, we are so vulnerable to every conceivable macroeconomic headwind, global headwind. So, you can try anything. You just have to wait because you send the wrong signals to neither to the investors, to everyone. You just wait and see. Now, the inflation is tempering a little bit, but it still doesn't give you that confidence to start pushing down the rate. You just have to wait and see. And even if you wanted to react to Trump, you can't even do that because we're part of ECOWAS Common External Tariff. We're already bound in a 5-band tariff. You can only use a levy instrument if you want to target any product from Russia and from America. So it's not something you want to try right now. You have to defend your currency because the major culprits are the potential drop in the trade between China and America. You have to hold your currency because China will be, acting on their own. They have their own initiative. They're going to subsidize some of those major people who are going to be hit. Their products are going to be cheaper because they might slightly devalue. So your businessmen are going to be scrambling for dollar to import from China. So wait and see. That's my advice. And I think we still have to wait for another 1 or 2 months before we can actually do anything. You can narrow the corridors, the asymmetric corridors. It's too early to call.
Mr. Adebajo, I want to ask what you think, particularly as it affects the banking industry. The committee reaffirmed stability in the banking sector, but some also say if you look at these figures, how it affects the banking sector as a whole. What's your take with regards to the stability of the banking industry as regards to the figures from the MPC meeting?
I don't think there's any correlation. I'm sorry, but the banks have come up with another bumper harvest in terms of their profits. They're doing very well. What we just need to watch with the banks are the non-performing loans and see what their loan books are looking like and audit them. But the banks have gone through a round of capital raising to show up their balance sheets. And despite the fact that there's 50% CRR.
Exactly. That affects them one way or the other.
No, how does it affect them when their profits are at record levels? So, I mean, despite the fact that you have 50% CRR, your profits are yeah, it affects them. But the fact is that despite the fact that you have a 50% CRR, the banks have returned significant levels of profits this last 2024. So, that argument does not hold. So you need to understand the distortions within the system or the banking system and how it works, because what it talks about is the rates. Because you have a high rate, because you have a high interest rates or high NPR, obviously the banks are going to do well with the interests. And at the end of the day, the fact is that despite or in spite of 50% CRR, the banks have once again come up with bumper profits. So, this is really where you have to take a look at it. But the most important thing right now is not the banking industry. The most important thing right now is the Nigerian economy having a lot of stability, and what we need to do to begin to put in policies that will drive growth, employment, which are the key critical things that we need: growth, employment, and productivity. So at the end of the day, the banks are okay, and the banks are very stable, which is good. The only issues with the banks is the non-performing loans. We need to watch it because of the tightening in the economy. And, it's no longer about monetary policy. It's about economic policy, industrial policy, trade policy, investment policy that will grow the Nigerian economy to 2013, 2014 of 8 to 10% per annum, and that can, lift people out of poverty. That's the next step that we're looking at now, not about banking profits.
Professor Ken Ife, I'd like to ask you what your reaction would be. What sort of policies should we now be looking at that could help narrow down, to address Nigerians who are, of course, feeling the impact of policies instituted by government? We've gotten reactions from all and sundry saying that they want policies that would trickle down, impact the day-to-day lives of Nigerians. So what sort of policies should government be looking at? What sort of interventions should we be looking at this time?
First, on the monetary side, I think there are green shoots, and we are seeing some signs of stability at the monetary side. Over the last, we have seen various measures being put in place at the monetary side to improve financial stability, to improve financial system stability, and then price stability. Of course, price stability is not one thing. You have NPR, you have interest rate, you have forex rates, you have when you are dealing with price mechanisms. But the thing is, I still agree with
Prof, we'll try to see how we'll connect with Prof to get a clearer audio from his end. But Mr. Debajo, I would ask you the same question. You talked about interventions that would address unemployment and all of that following the fallout of the major reforms of this administration. What specific interventions would you advise government, or do you think should be instituted by government at this time?
Well, first of all, the social intervention policies and the program needs to be reinstated. That's number one. Number two, I think now that we've seen the macro stability, the key issues now is around trade policy because of the tariffs, investment policy, and industrial policy. That is really where the attention is. The attention is now with the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investments. They really need to come up with the policies that will create unemployment, growth, and all that. In terms of fiscal management, I think we're getting there. We have an upgrade in things from Fitch, although our debt profile is low, but we all agree that on the long term is not sustainable, and my position on the sale of assets. So I think I've also said that government should sell assets to be able to optimize equity within their capital structure. That is something they can do on the fiscal side. That is more of balance sheet restructuring. But what will make an impact on the lives of people would be the social intervention program should be stepped up, and more or less the policy, industrial policy, investment policy needs to be revamped so that we can create employment. We can grow Nigeria's economy, like I said, to 2013, 2014 levels, where the economy was growing between 10 to 12%, and inflation was at about 11%, and interest rates were about 12%. So we need to get to that rate to grow the economy so that we can lift people out of poverty. Because, we now have a problem with the people. You know, stagflation is still an issue. Unemployment is still an issue. So what we are looking for now is growth. We've achieved stability. We've achieved fiscal stability, economic stability, monetary stability. Now we need to grow the economy and lift people out of poverty into the middle class. That's the bottom line.
Professor Ken Ife, do we have you now? Okay, Prof, you were trying to make a point. You were trying to make a point the other time.
Yeah, well, I was saying that we actually need to come back and look in great, because we have that side and also on the supply side. Okay, look at now.
Oh, we're not getting it.
Trump is likely to put 5% tax on
All right, then again, we cannot have Professor Ken Ife. But finally, before I let Mr. Adebajo go, the next meeting is on the 21st and 22nd of July. We've identified a lot of issues here, but looking at the projections and reprojections also of the IMF, and what do you make of the uncertain policy environment, particularly the tariff thing, which we've always talked about? What do you see that impacting Nigeria moving forward, talking about the decision that will be taken the next meeting?
I don't, let us drill the numbers down. Our largest imports is from China, $25 billion a year. So we need to talk to the Chinese to see how they can begin to manufacture more in Nigeria instead of exporting to us. That's number one. Exports to the US, I think, is mostly oil and gas and urea, and that is exempt in terms of tariffs. What we import mostly from the States is wheat. And, you know, or we already have some sort of duty, or we have already put in a lot of duties on American products here because we want to look at a backward integration program. So that's why I'm saying that our industrial policy, our trade policy needs to be reconciled to position it to the present realities in the global stage. Really what we need is a paradigm shift in policy making on the trade, industry, and investment side of things to be able to grow the economy. That is really where we are right now.
Are you going to react to the Nigeria First initiative? Do you think that is also a plus?
There's nothing wrong with that. Like I said, that is about reviewing that and manufacturing more here. It's not a new initiative. We've talked about import substitution, patronizing made in Nigerian goods. So it's a good sign and we need to action it. So that is really where we need to see. We need to do these things and make it work. And let's back up the Nigeria First initiative with solid review and pragmatic reviews of our trade policy, our investment policy, and our industrial policy. We need to see a harmonization of that in line with this Nigeria First initiative.
Indeed, a lot needs to be done around the industrial policy, trade policy, and all that you've talked about. Thank you so much, Mr. Tiliwa Adebajo, CEO, CFG Advisory. Thank you for joining us. We know you have a busy schedule there in Abeokuta. Enjoy the rest of your day. Professor Ken Ife, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Prof, I must thank you too. We would have this conversation, I know, some other time. Today, it's not looking too, the network is not too much on our side. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you.
All right, Prof.